Thanks for being here, Wayne. My name is Josh Shein.
Thanks for inviting
President and CEO of Trius Lending Partners. Here with Wayne Gioioso, President of Mid-Atlantic Properties, CEO of Mid-Atlantic Properties.
President,
all of the above,
yeah,
whatever we want to call you.
Right.
Thanks for making the time to come out here.
Sure.
We sit here and do these get-togethers over a nice cocktail here at Lib's Grill, just learning about what you do and how you've gotten to where you are, and maybe a little bit about the current marketplace and where things are right now, and sort of how you foresee what's coming down the road within the local and regional marketplace.
Great.
I'd love to learn a little bit more. We've never met before. We have some mutual contacts.
Friends,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'd love to just hear a little bit about your background as to how you got to where you are today, if that's okay.
Sure. You have an announcer's voice. Doesn't he have a great voice?
Yeah.
Like he's been on TV all
I got a
his
face
life.
for radio, I guess. Is that what it is?
No. So I'm Wayne Gioioso. I have a company called Mid-Atlantic Properties. I started it in 1987. I had no money and it was just me, so Mid-Atlantic sounded big. So I called it Mid-Atlantic Properties, and that was as big as I could think at the time. And so I started as a real estate broker, and when I would make money, I would go out and buy houses. So I started buying houses.
Oh. Like fix and flips or holds for rentals.
Yeah. And I just would buy houses and fix them up, and I did a lot of the work myself, and had a portfolio of houses. Then I started developing land, and I had what I called a shotgun approach. So I was developing land to sell to builders, and I would do it in Baltimore County, and then I started an industrial park in Hagerstown, which I still have some of that land left. But I had this shotgun approach, and I had some houses and an apartment building, some small commercial.
Wow.
And so then I came up with this idea really through reading. I just read a lot of books, and I came up with this idea that I should be a rifle, not a shotgun. So what does that mean? Well, I was trying to figure out how to be the McDonald's of real estate. And I was like, that I don't know if that makes sense. Like, how do I do that? Anyway, a light bulb went off and I figured it out. I just need to do the same thing over and over and be really good at it and be the best at it. So what I did was I took my shotgun approach, and I had all these disparate properties. And
were they regionally? Were they? I mean, how
like
local in Baltimore?
Baltimore County.
Greater Baltimore region.
Yeah, that's
okay,
all I
it.
could understand.
Yep.
That's what I figured out, and I was I'm like the tortoise and the hare, right?
Yeah,
I'm the tortoise, and I was just slow and methodical, and buy low, sell high, always buy value.
Right.
So I started selling. I sell in the margins, buy in the middle. So what's the middle? So the middle became my plan of becoming, like McDonald's or Microsoft, doing the same thing over and over again. Scaling, they call it now, right?
Yep.
So I started selling properties on the margins, doing 1031 tax exchange, and buying in the middle. What's the middle? Well, at that time I was buying office buildings and strip centers. So I had,
and again, same region.
Same region.
Same greater Baltimore, city, county kind of area. Yeah,
right. And so I just started, I'd sell 2 or 5 houses and buy a strip center. And I'd sell a small commercial building and some land, and I'd buy an office building. And so I made this model where I was doing the same thing over and over. I had the same lease.
Right.
Had this, I took out all the frictional costs.
Replicate the repeatable sort of aspects of it. Yeah.
I was doing my own construction, so I did everything in house, and I just started. So that was '87. I started the company around '99, 2000. I started doing that, and then I started expanding at some point, like around 2011. I started buying in Towson, and I'm a contrarian, so I was like, nobody wanted to be in Towson. All the brokers were saying, "Oh, don't go to Towson because you got to pay for parking," and now they say it's unsafe. More on that later.
Yeah.
And it's plenty safe here, believe me. And so I would buy properties in Towson, and ever since then, I've been accumulating more properties in Towson, along New York Road Corridor, and then a couple years ago, I made it my mission for the rest of my career. I'm just going to concentrate on Towson.
Interesting. When was that? About 3 or 4, like COVID time, or?
Yeah, right after COVID, and surprisingly, we didn't get hit that bad with COVID.
That's amazing.
We came up with a plan, and that's a whole other story. But in my office portfolio, people are kind of down on office, but we're over 90% leased in Towson, except for one building. I just bought a building, and it's more than half vacant. But other than that building, we're crushing it. All my retail space is leased,
Amazing.
We're leasing office space like crazy.
That is truly contrarian because everyone talks about stay away from the office.
Yeah.
Still stay
Yeah.
away
Now
from
there's
the
some
office,
problems with
but
the model.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
yeah.
more expensive to build out now.
Right,
You know, I'd
right.
spend $20, $30 before. Now you spend $50, $60,
Right.
$70 a foot building it out. But it works. I mean, well, the way it works is you have to buy it cheap.
Right. Always buy right. I mean,
buy it right,
We say that
it's
with
fine.
people on the starting off on like an investment property in the county, maybe a fix and flip, a buy and hold, maybe it's a row home, maybe it's a single
Right.
family place. You got to buy it right. That's the key for
Yep,
everything, and that
exactly.
translates into larger commercial properties as well.
Same thing.
Asset classes. So when you were building, and growing this out, obviously a lot of commercial now. Going back through the different iterations as you were growing and scaling the business, how much of it was office space at that time versus the strip center versus maybe some manufacturing or industrial or any other asset classes that might be missing? I don't know if you're doing hospitality or any of that stuff, but
So yeah, part of my model became be very disciplined. So once I came up with a model, I was buying office buildings primarily and strip centers.
okay, two main things.
That was it.
50-50
And they were
or
paid-
just
no,
as it
it's
came?
mostly office,
Okay,
but
okay.
some strip centers.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I sold off the strip centers to do the selling the margins, buying the middle, because I had strip centers that I had bought, fixed up, leased up, and added value, and they had a lot of equity. So I would sell those, and they were easier to sell,
Yeah, right.
to go buy a bigger building, some
Right.
bigger office buildings. And I ended up with more of an office portfolio, but I still have some retail. But I sold a lot of the retail that I had redeveloped. I don't develop, I redeveloped
Got
these
it.
buildings.
Got it. So existing places that you did
Yeah.
the renovations and
Right.
updated. Why do you think commercial office has been successful for you when every article you read says stay away? It hasn't worked. It isn't working. It wasn't working. They're defaulting. They're having issues. Why? Either are you not having those issues? What's been your success or maybe your secret sauce to have prevented what I read about every day in all these articles?
Right,
You know?
yeah. Which is fine with me because it keeps people
Right,
away.
right.
It's like less
More opportunity
competition.
for you, right.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's two ingredients. One is I'm local.
Yeah.
So I believe, like Towson, for instance, if you look at any property, you can do this anywhere in the country. You look at a building, why is it not performing? Usually it's the ownership, okay? Because there's always office users, there's always
Yeah.
retailers, but they're in that building, not in your building, whatever. If they're not in your building, you're doing something wrong, okay? So that's the one thing. The second thing is you pay too much for it.
Right.
You can't get them in your building because
You're upside down.
you're upside down, and you know a tenant comes and they need $1 million in TI, and they want to pay $25 a foot in rent, but you need 30 to make it work,
Right.
and you paid too much, and you have to get $30 a foot. And if you paid a lot less, you could do the deal at $24 a foot, get the deal done, put the $1 million in TI into it.
Right.
So you have to buy it right, and I believe I'm a strong believer of local. Like I've immersed myself.
Markets you know, areas
I know
you
this
know.
market,
Yep,
and
right.
and I can
Right.
like you just elbow grease, right? Like a lot of the buildings aren't filled, but we do everything in house. We have our own leasing team. We touch every deal. If somebody comes and looks at space for us, literally the next day we can get them. What space do you like? That one? Okay, we'll get you a proposal. All right.
Do the model, show them, price it out. Everything's
Everything,
done.
right?
Yeah.
We get them the price a day or two later, how much it costs to build out. There's no friction in our model because quite frankly, I'm making all the decisions. So somebody comes to me and says, hey, we have to put, X number of dollars into this deal, and we have a spreadsheet. What does it look like? And we do it quick.
Right.
So 2 days later, we can get back to a tenant to move into the space, whereas other people have a model where they have to go through ownership or a committee or a broker, and it gets muddled.
Right.
I mean, we could have the tenant. We get them in quick too. Like I always stress out my construction crew.
Right,
I'll say, yeah, we're going to get them in 30 days.
How quickly did you end up having your own construction crew to know you had enough work to support your own construction crew?
Yeah, good question. Pretty much from the beginning,
Yeah.
I always GC'd everything myself, and I
Yeah.
knew construction just from growing up and doing it.
Okay.
So I would always GC everything, but then as we grew, now I have in-house. We do not only GC everything, but not everything. Now some deals we get too busy and we do hire contractors
Right.
to do certain build
the
outs.
core group, you're able to keep them busy. There's enough
All the time.
build out,
Yeah,
TI
right. And then we have our
happening,
own crew, so
Right.
we'll do carpentry and painting, and
Right.
we sub out carpet and all that kind of stuff.
But when these leases are coming up, post-COVID especially, they're staying with you, they're renewing, they're extending, they're moving into places not really bigger from what I hear, but it's still working. I guess I'm still a little fascinated at that as to why that still works when you hear about, oh, they're downsizing and they're downsizing. Has it been feed from the city coming out to Towson that's offset it, or are people not downsizing like I hear about? Is it just not happening?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I hope not too many people hear this because I don't want a lot of competition.
No, it's just between us.
Yeah, just us, right?
This is not going to leave this
just
table.
you and me.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So what I do is we have most of our tenants, I'd say 75% of our tenants are 5,000 square feet or less. So what I figured out years ago was, you can do this in any market. I mean, you can do this in New York City or New Orleans or Dallas or whatever. So you figure out where the 75% line is, right? In Baltimore County, in this area, Towson to Hunt Valley, it's 3,000 square feet. So 75% of deals are 3,000 square feet or less, okay? So if you have 100 office leases, 75 of them are 3,000 square feet or less. So what happens with those? Number one, brokers don't really get too involved because they're not making that much money. And that's where the beef is. There's 75% of the deals. So when I buy a building, I may buy a 100,000 square foot building. A lot of landlords will want a 50,000 square foot tenant, 425s, 100,000 square foot tenant. No, I want ideally 1,000 square foot tenants.
That's interesting.
And then what happens is, even in COVID, when people were crashing, and you can't get hurt if you don't have. If you have a big tenant, you
diversified with smaller people.
Exactly, right. So that's been my model. We service the smaller. Now we have bigger tenants, but overall in the portfolio, it's nothing could crash the portfolio. No one tenant can crash the portfolio, or any building, quite frankly.
And I mentioned briefly Baltimore City. A lot of talk of the city, a lot of talk of the central business district in the city. What's going on? I don't know if you've seen some of the prices on some of what they're trading for down there. I assume you've seen that influx coming up to Towson.
We have
places.
That's good question. That's interesting because we used to cold call in the city
to try to convince them
and they'd be like, nah, we're good. And all along Charles Street, there's hundreds of law firms and financial companies. No, we're good. They didn't want to look. Now, interestingly, my sales team, the leasing team, they cold call in Baltimore City. I don't know if it's 100%, nothing's 100%, but most of them go, I'll take a look.
I'm interested,
My lease expires in a year, 2 years. Yeah, I'll take a look.
That's the last few years you've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe post-COVID, I guess, as things.
And we've been successful. We're bringing a lot of people from the city. We brought people from Hunt Valley. And you say people downsize. Well, who's downsizing? The big companies. So we have law firms, might be 30,000 square feet, they need 20. Right, we had a big tech company out in Hunt Valley, and they were in about 25,000 square feet. They only needed 6.
Wow.
Well, we brought them to Towson. They had a lot of young people working for them, and they came in. They looked at space, and they looked out our window, and they see Banditos. They're like, oh, you got a Banditos in Towson?
Yeah, there's stuff to do.
Hey, this is great. So
that's
they
amazing.
moved to Towson. We just got. I mean, I could give you anecdotes all day, but we have a tech company who was in Canton, and they came out to visit a young company, Chesapeake Partners. They're like a search firm. These young guys,
I know those guys.
And they have this real modern space. Everybody's building that out, by the way. Like all the space we're building out, it's all glass and and cool kitchens.
Right.
You walk in, there's no lobbies anymore. There's a kitchen. You walk in, it's like a bar.
That's all that matters.
It's great. So they came out to visit our tenant. And they're like, oh my God, Towson's great. Amazing. So this tech company, we just signed a lease with them 2 weeks ago. We're building the space out now.
Oh my God.
6,000 square feet. They're moving to Towson.
So how do you respond? You mentioned parking. Someone like that, or even any of these companies, any of these places looking, where am I going to park? Is there enough parking? What's your feedback on that? What's the reality, I guess, of what really happens here?
It's like crime. It's a fallacy. I mean, crime's not a fallacy. There are some crime, but it's not like people think. But parking. There's more parking in Towson closer to the buildings than any building in the suburbs where, if you don't have a spot like right up next to the building and you have to walk, a pretty far distance, across a parking lot. Towson has parking garages.
Everywhere.
And we have garages, we have lots, And that was part of my model too, was to control the parking. So we have 1,500 parking spaces within a block of here.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know,
That's
we
key.
have plenty of parking.
Right.
That's not even an issue.
And on to that crime thing. Obviously, a lot in the news, especially recently, I think as recently as last night, there was a hearing or a meeting or something like that. So there's a lot of talk of the crime in Towson. What's going on? Is it coming from the city? What's your take on that? What's the reality on the ground for the people working here every day?
Yeah. So crime is going down. Okay, contrary to what people think. The statistics,
On a
if you
broader
look
level,
at it,
right, yeah.
But I'll try to sum this up succinctly. So in Towson, we used to police in Towson with 16 police officers back before 2020, before COVID.
Yeah.
COVID hits, and police departments got decimated. They lost a lot of officers. They were down like 300-400 officers. They're down. Baltimore County's down now 183 officers. They're almost back, which is great.
Yeah.
So what happened was Towson then only had 12 police officers. Well, you have less police, but then here's the population. But the population went up. Why? Because they were building apartments all over Towson, and the apartment market's over 95% leased. I mean, it's hard to find an apartment in Towson. Wow. I mean, you can find one because there's 5% of them. Always, you know, there's always somebody.
Right.
But so there's more people, less police, and then they started policing differently, right? They weren't walking around and everything.
Right.
Well, now the new police commissioner, Robert McCullough, unbelievable. He is a cop's cop. Like, he knows. And we meet with
on
him.
The street.
We got all the
Yeah.
stakeholders in Towson.
Yeah.
A woman named Nancy Hafford runs the Towson Chamber of Commerce. She pulled together everybody. We started meeting with the police chief. He would show up once a month. Now it's once a quarter. The last meeting we had, the only thing that anybody brought up was one homeless person.
Wow.
Like, is it a crime? Sure. But
Well, there's always going to be some. I mean, it's a big, vibrant area, but nothing to really be
And it's
concerned
not
with. And on a broader basis, it's not a major
exactly.
issue.
And it's no different than, other cities or other urban environments.
You mentioned the apartments. As you've had success and looking at and understanding this area better than probably anyone around here, have you dabbled into multifamily, into the apartment buildings? Have you been tempted, and have you acted on that temptation to say, hey, I got to own some apartment buildings here, why not?
Good point. We did buy a small apartment building in Towson that came on the market, an existing building. We're like, okay, it's in Towson, we'll buy it.
Yeah.
And I recently purchased a large office building, which we contemplated doing apartments.
Right, converting. That's big talk nationally, right?
Right.
Converting those offices, and that goes back to that storyline of the offices are not good, no one wants to be in offices, so we're going to convert them all. That's clearly not really an issue here, but you did consider it.
That's a narrative, but it's all the pieces have to line up.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, there's a bad office building, we're going to convert it to office. So you have to have a couple of things. You have to have a good location. You have to have a building that you can build apartments in.
Right.
Because if the building's too long,
depending on the layout,
or too far from the elevators,
support beams, everything.
And you can't get any light into the apartments. So I call it art and science. Like, I'm into the art and science of it. A lot of people are just into the science, the math, right? Like, does this work financially? I want it to work financially, but I want the art to work because I want it to be beautiful. I want to, have a great environment. So apartments would be great. So the art of it, can we do apartments? So I went through that. Yep, we can do apartments there. Worked architecturally.
Yep.
I have this 150,000 square foot building. We hired an architecture firm, went through it. Yep, this could work. Hired Whiting Turner Construction.
Yeah, sure.
They
the
did
real deal. Yeah.
the analysis of it, and the art would have been great, but the science, the math didn't work.
Okay.
And here's why: because the cost to renovate it, because of construction costs these days, was too high, and the rents were here. So if the rents relative, in your spreadsheet, if the rents relative to your construction costs aren't breaking even, you and I would never do a break-even deal, right?
For sure.
But they're not even breaking even. So the rents either have to be higher, or the construction costs have to be lower. And if one of those,
or buy it that much lower, again, buy right in the first place, right?
I bought it right. That was actually inconsequential.
For office, bought it right. So
but it was inconsequential to the math,
right,
really.
Got it. Yeah.
But if I paid zero for it,
right,
it's still
yeah.
So, but that's a good point. That's another thing. Like, if you pay too much for a building, the math's already
It's
bad.
never going right. It's never going to be
Yeah,
convertible
to convert
at all.
buildings, right. So you have to be in a market that has high enough rents
Yep.
to relative to the current construction costs these days, which is quite high.
So you have one rental, one multifamily, one rental building, one apartment building you have.
Right.
And
That's how I started.
Right,
Now I'm
right.
like coming full circle, getting back into that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the math didn't work.
Yeah, okay,
But
got it.
you know, we're looking at some other things. We have this, you know, beautiful building. We're, you know, chances are we're going to turn it back into a Class A office
Yeah,
building because, quite
okay.
frankly, we're so leased up.
It's amazing.
Like I'm not going to have much space left soon.
That's amazing.
And you know, I'm really bullish on it because people want to be in an urban environment. I mean, literally from where we're sitting, you can walk to 92 restaurants within 3
yeah, it's
blocks.
amazing.
Now we may not eat
Right,
eating all of them,
right, but still, yeah, it's there.
It's 92
Right,
restaurants, right? Like it's quite a variety, and there's some closing, but look, it's like everything else. It's like they just weren't serving the right food, or they didn't have the right atmosphere.
There's reasons for them not
There's
surviving
plenty-
and not lasting.
Yeah, Lib's Grill just opened
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago. They're crushing it. I mean,
Amazing.
people are like, it's packed every day for lunch and dinner,
amazing.
happy hour. You know why? Because it's a great environment. They have
And there's a need for it. There's
they-
need for
and-
good food,
and
good
they
drinks.
have mixologists.
Yeah,
Like
exactly,
they know how to
exactly,
make
right,
drinks,
right,
and
right.
they like do it
Yeah.
properly.
So your outlook for the broader market, but more specifically Towson, positive on all levels. In other words, looking good, feeling good down the road. I don't want to say regardless of interest rates always impact
Right,
things.
yeah,
We're going to get to
sure.
financing in a minute. I want to
Yeah.
chat on that for a second. But just broadly speaking, you're still betting on it. You still like it. You still feel good about it.
I do, but
Yeah.
anybody who's looking at Towson, like it's terrible. Don't
Right,
invest here.
stay away.
Don't
Right,
invest here.
exactly.
Yeah,
Do
right.
not consider
It's our
this at
little
all. Right,
secret.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay, no,
right.
for sure. Financing. So we're a lender, we're a private lender. We lend
Yeah.
on real estate, commercial properties. We start off with people doing the basic fix and flip, the residential, the row home, the single family home, whatever it might be. We do strip centers, we do retail. We actually don't do commercial, to tell you the truth, because of the concern. And
Sure.
I think you might have changed my mind on that. But what have you used going way back, and as you've continued to evolve into where you are today, where has financing come from? How have you done that? Outside money, banks,
Yeah.
institutional? What's been your approach, and what's working for that?
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, if you're a young person just starting out, I'll give you the whole arc of my
Yeah,
career.
right,
So,
yeah.
So, my first deal, I had $5,000, and I bought a $30,000 house, and I got a $25,000 loan.
Yep.
And, you know, that was my first deal. My first commercial building, I borrowed $20,000 from my father, paid him back with 12% interest. Remember when
Not
interest
bad.
rate? You're not
Yeah.
old enough. I'm a lot older than you.
Right,
but
right.
Back then,
Those
man,
rates
interest
were-
rates
yeah,
were crazy.
yeah.
So I paid it back,
Right.
and I've never borrowed another dime from anybody after that, except banks,
Right.
insurance companies.
No private money for you didn't
Yeah.
need a personal loan for the
Yeah,
down
my,
payment. or
yeah,
anything
my
like that.
model
Right,
was always, if I can afford to do it, I'll do it. And if
Got
I
it.
can't,
Got it.
you know, and I'm not smart enough to like have a bunch of people asking me questions about their
Right.
investment and everything. I just don't want to do that.
Right.
So then I had two simple things. One was my father was like a Depression era thinker, so
Right.
he never had any debt.
Right. I knew you were going to say that. No
Right,
debt.
right.
Don't borrow
Your dad was
anything
probably
ever.
the same way,
sure.
right? Don't borrow
100%.
any money.
Yep.
So I was a little different.
Yeah.
But you know, I had a governor. I had a little in my head. I was like, okay, got to always be aware of that. So my model became, I'm only going to ever be 50% levered. So what I did was I started buying buildings. Now I might borrow 75% on a building, but then I have another one that has no mortgage.
Got it.
So my
So
portfolio,
broadly speaking, right on the
is
whole,
50% levered. You know, and you know, a lot of people do this 75, 80%.
For sure,
right?
yeah.
So that gives stability,
Yeah.
which then I knew, you know, I was playing the long game, tortoise in the hare, right? That eventually, you know, then you can, from a position of strength, do other kinds of deals,
Right.
get into other markets. So that was part of it. And then what I did was, from day one, I tried to get a line of credit, and I could never get one. Then I finally got one for like $2,000.
Yeah.
And I remember I got a $50,000 line of credit,
Yep.
you know, and I was like 30 or something. I
Yeah.
got it from Maryland National Bank.
Yep.
And I don't know if you're old enough to remember, Maryland National Bank tanked in
Yeah, they're
1990.
part of that whole thing. Yep.
And I remember, like it was yesterday, I was driving down the street, and my banker called me. He's like, Wayne, we're calling your loan. And I was like, what do you mean you're calling your loan?
Right, I'm
like
current.
I'm
Right, yeah,
current.
right,
Like,
right.
well, actually, thankfully, I didn't owe anything on it. It was a line of credit.
Okay,
And,
okay.
and he said, we're closing it. And I said, I've always made payments. Like, you know, my company's profitable every year. And he's like, you know, our boss said close down all the real estate loans. And it was the wildest time in 1989, 90.
This happened overnight. This was
Overnight,
right, yeah,
and they
right.
just wiped everybody out. And they just pulled all the, it was like the tide came in.
Oh my God.
And everybody, if you had lines of credit, they were cut off. So, you know, if you had millions of dollars in line of credit and they call it, like, you know, you got to start selling stuff. So everything just went down. Anyway, so what I did was I said, I'm only going to be 50% levered, but then from 50 to 60% of the portfolio value, I'll have lines of credit. And so the most I'll ever be for a short period of time might be 60%.
Okay, yeah.
So that, like you know, if you're a young person looking for a model, I would say figure out a model, right? Like I figured it out, and then, you know, course corrected. But I use the line of credit to go buy properties. And when you're buying properties, part of what an owner, like if you're selling a building, you'd be like, oh, this guy says he'll settle in 30 days, and you know he needs a short study period or no study period, and this other guy needs 60 days to look at it and 60 days to settle.
Yep.
You know, what are you going to go with? So if you can act quickly,
Correct.
So that was part of my model, like be able to.
Having the line of
quickly.
credit allowed you to act quickly with your cash as well.
Correct.
That's the model we use, is being able to
and
act
you just
quickly and
aggregate
respond.
it, and you do the deals you can do. Yeah.
Did you raise, or do you raise money for outside investors, put funds together and bring in
No, I haven't
LPs?
done that.
Nothing?
Yeah, that was too much brain damage.
Amazing.
For me.
No, that's incredible.
And
absolutely
now
amazing.
I'm like, you know, why? Maybe my kids will. I don't know, but no, I was tortoise and hare. I was like, what? You know, I only did what I could afford. And if somebody called me with a deal that I didn't have the equity for either, but I sell things.
Right.
So I've sold on the margins. Like I'll sell the properties that I.
Not performing as well, or not as profitable.
Or I don't want for whatever reason.
Okay,
or they might be performing extremely well, but I know they're peaking.
Yep.
And I'll go, okay, now's the time to sell it. So I'll sell those and do a 1031 tax exchange, and which means you don't pay taxes when you sell it. So, or cash, so I have 3 buckets of equity. Right?
So you'll still do that, and have even recently looked at the property again on the margins and been like, I'm just going to unload that, free up some cash for this or that.
Like every once in a while, people will go, hey, will you sell a building? I'll go, I'll sell that one.
Right.
And I'll go, okay.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, somebody will say, will give me what I would want
for the right price. Right. Exactly.
Right. And then
because you hear about a lot of people who take that long-term hold approach of I'm holding, I'm never selling, no matter what. Right.
Yeah.
And they sort of subscribe to that. For good or for bad, there's people who swear by it, there's people who don't, but you're clearly open-minded enough to
you got nothing's
variability.
100%. Right. You can't, if you're too stringent on everything, but, I will say what you have to be really stringent about, like if, some young real estate person's watching this, you need to have a model. In my opinion, part of your model needs to be, you got to get rid of your ego. Because if you start doing deals for ego, like I want to own that building. I want my friends to know I own that building.
On
you do that. I want my name on it. Whatever. That's not good. That's the siren call, right? That is not
operate
a good
sort of
thing.
under the radar. Do your thing. Don't worry about what it looks like or what it says or how big you appear or not. Right. That's always a good rule.
Right. Having more real estate doesn't mean you're got more.
Correct. Because you can be leveraged. You can be leveraged 95% and be upside down or whatever on those things. Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah.
But to each his own.
Final question, is sometimes a tough one. Regrets or things you would have done differently over the years in building a incredibly successful business? I'm not sure if there are any, but sometimes there's a nugget here or there that you say, I really wish I'd done this or that a little differently. Anything that comes to mind?
I've heard a lot of people, you've probably heard this too, and you ride around and you go, oh, I could have bought that building.
Right.
I had that deal. I had that deal. Right.
Famous last words.
Yeah, right. And I've passed on some deals. A good friend of mine told me one time, and it stuck with me, some of the best deals you do are the ones you don't do.
Right, correct.
So,
that's another famous line, for sure.
Right. I have a lot of deals that I didn't do that I'm glad I did not do.
Yeah.
I do have one, and the only one that I have is the property next to this building.
Yeah.
I had it under contract, COVID hit, and I got a little squeamish and I dropped it.
Was it you? Was it the financing? What caused it to? I mean,
well,
were you concerned on your own, or was the bank saying I'm not going to fund any of it anyway? Or
well, I was just buying the real estate to develop it.
Okay,
it was just an acre of property, but it had some buildings on it, but they were tear downs.
Got it.
So I was just going to buy it and kind of land bank it and like figure out what to do with it.
Right.
COVID hit. I got a little squeamish, and I just. I didn't know what was going to happen. Like everybody's going, oh, nobody's going to ever return to office. I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, it ended up not being that bad for us. It was fine.
Yeah.
And I dropped it. Thankfully, a buddy of mine bought it, and they're developing it into 150 apartments.
Wow.
Do I regret?
Yeah.
You know, in
right.
retrospect, I would have bought it,
Right.
but you know, it's working out fine.
You think you would have done apartments as well on that, or stuck with commercial?
I don't know. I mean, initially I would have turned it into a parking lot.
Right,
but,
right,
you know,
exactly,
and
right,
wait
which
and
is a good
see,
call.
but,
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, it's going to be apartments. It's going to be high-end, 150 high-end apartments. You know, it's going to be.
Is capacity in Towson right now, as far as the ratio of apartments and office and retail, are those properly aligned right now, would you say, in the market? As far as like, is there enough retail, enough restaurant, enough apartments, and enough office to sort of accommodate what's going on right now? Or is it way under in any one of those categories?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I think the market is aligned. I see the market as not having enough office space going forward.
Oh, wow.
I think,
That's interesting.
I think
Wow.
you know, it's going to fill up.
Wow.
My retail space is filled.
Yeah.
Right. Here's the problem. People aren't coming here.
Yeah.
You know, people aren't coming and walking around. So I wouldn't say there's too much of anything. There's not enough of the right thing.
Yeah,
Like there's 92
right.
restaurants within a couple of blocks of here, right? 3 blocks
Incredible,
of here.
yeah.
They're all similar,
Right.
Lib's Grill is different.
Yes.
Why? So they're crushing
sure,
it. People are coming here to get drinks like
Yeah,
this, and
right.
you know, and a great varied menu.
Yeah.
You know, you could eat here. I think I ate here 8 times in the last 2.5 weeks.
That's why they were
different.
shaking your hand coming
Yeah,
in.
I've
I
had
knew it.
something different every
Right,
day, every
right.
time.
That's
So
great.
it's great.
Yeah.
Service is great.
Yeah.
So
Love that.
it's really like I have an analogy I use. It's kind of like a garden, right? It's
Yeah.
like you know, and in a garden, if you just have an oak tree, or you just have tulips, or you just have mulch, like what fun is that, right?
Right,
But if you have a
right.
garden and you pay attention to it, and you pick the weeds, which I'm doing, I'm picking weeds
Yeah.
and planting flowers,
Yeah.
okay? And Towson is a beautiful garden, and there's these beautiful parts of it, like this part of the garden, oh, this looks great. This part of the garden, a lot of weeds, okay. And I'm concentrating on what are the weeds, okay, crime. All right, well, let's figure that out. Oh, we don't have a white tablecloth restaurant that makes great
Right,
drinks.
right.
Now we
Now we
do.
do, right, exactly,
Right, so
yeah.
pick weeds, plant
Yeah.
flowers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I've been
great.
trying to do, and what I'm going to do the rest of my career.
I
So
love that. That's amazing. Great stories and great background, and congrats on all the success.
Yeah, thank
Absolutely
you.
amazing. I'm now more of a Towson advocate than I was
All right,
20 minutes
good,
ago.
yeah.
And I'm going to come here to eat too, so it's
yeah,
amazing.
good. Yeah, thanks, John.
Thanks for making the time. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
sure.
it. All right.
Yeah, that was great.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.